Welcome to Pushing the Envelope, Canada's unfiltered voice in construction. Real conversations, smart insights from the people building our world. Brought to you by Bothwell Accurate.
Hi, Marlon. Thank you for being our very first guest on Pushing the Envelope. You've shaped over $87 billion in construction over your career path, I read somewhere earlier. And I just wanted to start off by you introducing yourself, who you are, what you do, where you are now.
Sure. So, Marlon Bray, used to work at Altus Group for the last 14 years, more recently over at Clark Construction Management. So a bit of a shift from quantity surveying on the consulting side over into construction management. Done just about every asset type over my career. At Altus, towards the end of that period, I focused a lot on the residential office commercial side of things. I believe last count, I've worked on over 7,000 individual projects in my career. And again, just about everything from highways to high-rise residential down to individual houses and custom homes. So done a little bit of everything everywhere. And overall, I've been in the industry about 30 years, 25 Canada, 5 in the UK.
Oh my gosh, so nearly 3 decades, or just over now.
Yeah, you're aging me now. That's okay.
Sorry. In the industry.
You're not supposed to do the math for everybody.
I'm sorry, I won't. I'll keep that in mind for next time. After almost that long, or maybe 20 years, you said advising just developers. What made you want to make the switch to an executive role for a general contractor like Clark?
I was actually having a beer with Mike, and he was thinking about changing up the company. He was looking at how he might want to grow it and how he wants to think about succession. And we were having a discussion, and then just out of the blue, he said, well, have you ever thought about coming to work for me? I said no, and then left. And then called him back about an hour later and went, you know what, actually, why don't we talk a little bit more? So it wasn't like this thing that just happened. It was sort of just all of the stars sort of aligned at the right moment, the right time. I just happened to go out with him for lunch at the right time, and it triggered an idea. And the way I've sort of explained it is it's kind of going from working on the theoretical side to the practical side. So it's a practical application. I was having a discussion with someone the other day, and they're like, what's the big difference? I'm like, well, I knew 80% of everything I need to know to do this role. I said the last 20% was kind of about more so how. So how is it you're able to achieve some of the stuff where we're looking around acceleration? How is it we kind of managed to achieve building in these impossible places? So again, you sit in a meeting, you understand, you can see how it's done, but understanding how and why, that last 20% of information, which is the biggest part, is the learn once you're on the contracting side, whether you're a CMGC or a subtrade, you know now in extreme detail how to do it.
Yes.
And I like that side of things, that practical application, which when you pair to the theory side, just gives a whole different view of looking at projects. Now I'm able to look at them completely different than I was before.
Yes, I could see that. And you even said, I know it was off record, but when we met the other day, you said that it's kind of a funny role for you because you used to kind of beat on the sub-trades and, ask them to maybe change things or lower their costs. And now you're working with them much more closely on a different level.
Yeah, because you're collaborating different. Before, the collaboration happened with the consulting level and the CM to a degree, but the interaction with the trades was more so usually around if we were tendering. And the focus there was obviously we were very much on the number side, was how low can we get the number? Can we get all the scope included? And it was most of that, I got to hit a budget.
Yes.
And you did it you were just negotiating. It was just, I want it lower, I do it lower. Here's how my math works, here's how your math works. And whereas now, you've still got a component of that, obviously, as a CM, but there's a lot more collaboration, especially early on in the projects, and you're trying to solve problems. And now when there's a budget challenge, you're sort of working together. What can we look at differently? And you're leveraging that sub-trade expertise.
Yeah, I agree completely. Would you have a different message for maybe, say, cost consultants now or people that are working from that angle and haven't seen what you've seen on this side? Or
I find on the consulting side, sometimes there's an oversimplification, trying to go to a number. Oh, every project should be $400 a square foot. And that's, people become obsessed then with that. And
that's a good point.
I find the industry in general has got way too many rules of thumb. And I'm a big math guy, always have been. If you've heard anything I do in the past, everything comes back to math. There's so much math involved in everything. A whole building comes back to math. How much can I do in a day? What can I do in a day? How much does that cost? And I think a lot of times we've lost looking at the nuances of individual projects, or we've oversimplified the nuances of individual projects to try and go with these rules of thumb that have existed. And it's the industry not wanting to change. And I have to make the comment, the industry's, everyone keeps saying, we've been doing it like this for 30 years. Anyone that says that, the person on the other side should just run like hell.
Yeah.
And that's where the challenge is. A lot of these rules of thumb I remember when I joined Altus 14 years ago, and I got in and they're like, oh, here's all our, and basically they had a booklet of rules of thumb. Well, what's this based on? Oh, we've been doing that for years. Okay, who did the original calculation? We don't know.
Oh my God.
Okay, shouldn't we check these? And then that was like the first process was, oh my God, we should be checking all these rules of thumb. And that was the problem. People had persuaded themselves that the rule of thumb works. A rule of thumb will not always apply. And every project is an individual project. And while you can look at the whole and try and use that information, you really need to focus on individual projects and not always say, this is the solution for everything.
I agree completely. And yeah, we all know that through experience, that there's no one size fits all rule in this industry. Things are very different and dynamic, even just in the same country. Let me move on a little bit then from that. We kind of spoke on sub-trades, your dual lens, which I'm sure is very valuable to your role today. Clark's evolution now with you there, you're predominantly known for high-rise residential. And I just wanted to know if you were sort of looking to diversify into new sectors more, or you're looking to double down on what you already do so well.
Both.
Both, okay.
We've doubled down on residential. I think we're up to about 14 projects in the ground by the end of the year. That's going to carry on increasing through next year. We're also looking at ICI. We've got some bids in. We've got some JVs with some people. We've got our first, well, not our first project, but our first project as part of this growth. And we're looking at more in terms of that. But we've been very targeted. We're not trying to go in certain areas where we just don't belong there yet. When everyone else started pulling back on investment, we went the other way. So we decided to invest heavily in technology, and we've decided to invest heavily in staff, and we're carrying on doing that. I'm always a great believer, and maybe again it's my sort of aggressive side when it comes to this. The best time to grow is actually when you're at the bottom of the market, and that's the most opportunity when the market's at the bottom, because you can differentiate yourself, and there's less people looking, but they're looking for something different. They're looking for an advantage you can bring. When the market gets saturated, you can get lost a little bit, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's really well put. And then on that note, sort of talking about residential, do you see it picking up again from your seat? Do you think we're getting close to...
No, 2 or 3 years out at least.
2 or 3 years still?
Yeah, so I mean, if you look at starts right now, they're absolutely in the toilet. So they've been down 50%. Actually, it's over 50% this year if you look in Toronto. And in Toronto in particular is probably the poster child for utter disaster on a Canadian-wide level. So condo starts are around a third. Sales this year, I think, are around 1,000 condos year to date.
I heard that.
Yep, and 1,500 new homes. So 2,500 new homes sold this year, and the population of the GTA went past 6 million quite a while ago. So if you start doing that as a ratio, it's terrifying. And it's not the construction side of things anymore. Construction costs probably down 15-20% in the last 2.5 years. Realistically, it's just the government's approach to taxation, which hasn't changed. And that's having a major impact on the ability for jobs to actually pencil out, get to market. And then again, on the rental side, it's probably over-analysis, I think, especially Canadian companies in general are very risk-adverse, which is good and bad. But that risk-adverseness means they over-analyze things sometimes. And the way I look at a rental building, and I ask this question a lot to developers before when they're trying to make the decision, try and think of a project in the GTA where someone built a rental building in the last 10 years and regretted it. And I'm like, I know that's not the bar you can use because you have to look at the money sign, but there is some private wealth that takes that view, started to do it. And I think some of the institutional investors are coming around to that. So I do expect rental next year probably will increase.
Okay.
But the condo market's way away from recovery. There's just too much inventory to clear out on both the new side and the resale side. And until the resale market recovers, the condo market can't recover and it can't come back. So we're sort of trapped in this vicious circle right now where the general economy is suppressing everything, and then the only way to get things going again is to actually deal with the elephant in the room, which is the government's abuse of new home buyers, which they've been doing for the last 10, 20 years. And if you start to look at, certain costs are up, say 100%, some of the DCs and some of the municipalities are in the thousands of percent. And as a construction manager, Canada has an abundance of red tape. I'm sure as a subtrade, Canada has an abundance of red tape.
There's too much red tape.
And the red tape basically costs money and costs time. And if you layer in all the way down the supply chain, right down to the smallest supplier in the whole process, every single person in Canada is weighed down with this massive weight of red tape, and the system's just broken.
I don't know if you kind of already answered this question, but I've heard you say before on previous podcasts that if the numbers work, to build it. heard you sort of quote that before. But developers, they're still waiting too long, probably based on everything you just said. Do you think the right ones are starting to move again or just converting to more rental housing? Like I know there's tools like DC Relief that's been happening a little bit now. There's some HST rebates now. Do you think it's making projects more viable or it's still falling short?
The problem with the housing industry is there's no focus on the goal, which is building more housing. It's all about politics and money and the different levels of government. I mean, if Toronto spent less time begging to every other level of government and just got on with it, the world would be a better place on its own. So is that the City of Toronto's fault? I'm not sure, but I think if you start to look at it, housing is a problem around taxation and red tape. I'd argue the entire country has the identical problem across almost everything. It's a control game. It's all a power game. They don't want to give it up. The departments want to give it up, and that's what you start to see through the whole thing. It's a control game. It's a protecting your job. It's the system's designed so that you can't get a loophole in to get forward, and as soon as they get it, they close it by making something more complicated, but then they'll point, no, you've got this flexibility. And the whole system is not focused on the goal of building homes. And if you start to compare, say, Toronto to, say, Alberta's approval systems are on a third of the time, okay. I'd still argue that's slower and too slow.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if you go to Houston or you go to the US, it's much faster. Because we've become so rules-based and just layered on top and on top. The only solution to the problem is probably blowing the entire thing up and start from scratch. But the political fortitude to do that doesn't exist in this country.
I agree. What do you think we could do as general contractors, sub-trades, just keep doing things like this, like talking?
It's an ongoing fight. You look at Mike Moffat, he's done quite a lot, both online and obviously writing papers, and he's highlighted all the problems. We just need someone to solve them. And that is, unfortunately, the province. It's not the feds, it's not the municipalities. Development's done at the whim of the province almost entirely. The rules are generated by the province. The feds can control some of the stuff around taxation that they're involved in. They can control the immigration population switch. But other than that, they can hand out money and that's about it. It's difficult for them to have the level of influence they need, whereas the province can control everything. So everything that happens at a municipal level is the province's fault. Everything that's negative where the province complains about, municipalities live at the behest of the province. Therefore, you can't complain about a rule you created. I think Canada, the way I look at it right now is Canada's in a bit of a downward spiral to a degree. Obviously, some of that links down to the relationship with the US and stuff. But the way I look when your economy's down, it's almost like the way you look when you want to grow a company. When you're at the bottom's the time to come out swinging and grow. Mm-hmm. Why don't we just focus on being the best in the world at building? I honestly think Toronto's probably the best city in the world in terms of building high-rise. I know New York built some really cool, fancy stuff, but there's different money things there. I think Toronto, in terms of just being able to churn out high-rise buildings that are fairly tall, I don't think anyone in the world could keep up with us.
I agree, and it's nice to hear something positive said about Toronto.
But everyone always says, everyone always wants to put everything down. I think the builders, the trades, and the GTA, and in fact the whole of Ontario, do an astonishing job at the volume of homes we're able to actually produce, while everyone's saying productivity is down, not recognizing what the causes are. I think that gets lost a lot in this discussion about sometimes we should be proud of what we're good at, and we should be trying to promote that. And rather than the developers, the enemy, the construction managers, the enemy, everyone's the enemy, that maybe if everyone just got together and worked together, why don't we just become so bloody good at it, the whole world comes here to learn, rather than everyone here is flying to Japan and Norway. How do I build homes better? How do I do this? But everyone leaves. Well, why aren't people coming here? We have the skill, we have the education levels, we have the entire infrastructure to do it, from contractors, GCs, CMs, subtrades. It's all here.
We have the land too.
We have the land.
Yeah.
And we have the will. We just don't have the political will is the difference. So to me, I think we're just missing an opportunity. They keep talking about releasing the economy and their obsessions with pipeline. Yep, resources are important. But how about the government learns to walk and chew gum at the same time, can actually focus on more than one solution at a time?
Take out some of those rules of thumb.
Just
that would be helpful too.
Yeah, just get rid of, in fact, just take all the rules, put them in a big pile and burn them and start from scratch. Only one person pays, and that's the people at the top, which is the developers. If the developers are struggling, no money comes down the food chain. Then you become reliant only on the government money, which is a significant portion of the market, but residential's bigger in Ontario than the government market.
Yeah.
So to rely only on, I don't want to call it government handouts because they're building hospitals that care for people, but to rely only on a government income stream is a really dangerous place to head as an industry. And as residential drops off, there's going to be an over-reliance on that side, on the ICI for the traditional building trades. And the infrastructure guys are great because we're having to build a ton of it because we never bothered. So those guys, they're probably looking around going, I don't understand what everyone's complaining about. I'm so busy, I can't keep it. Yeah, if I'm building a subway, yeah, you're busy. Or if you're building a hospital.
Agreed.
But if you're in the residential market, even on the industrial side, starting to slow down, office is dead. That other side of the ICI that's not institutional is really, really important. And you put that with residential, and it's almost, I feel like they've been ignored by the government, who's looked at manufacturing struggling, obviously job layoffs, but construction struggling. Yeah. But not the whole of construction struggling. Canada, the number of jobs is going up. If you look in the residential industry and construction, it's dropping rapidly, but they're not moving.
No.
They're leaving.
Yeah.
And that's where I think we've got a major challenge, is that there's a big problem brewing, and it's kind of being ignored because everyone's obsessed with the president south of the border. Mm-hmm. Don't worry about him. Focus on yourself. Just why not focus on yourself and do what you can control and what you can do. Agreed. And leave a few people to deal with him.
Agreed. And George, our president here, he echoes the same thing.
Yeah,
we need
this
to focus
obsession.
On ourselves, not worry about our neighbor, not obsessed about it so much. Focus on Canada and how we can.
The goal should be making Canada the greatest country in the world, making Canada the wealthiest country in the world for the people. Everyone should be focused on average salaries increasing, average homes increasing, getting rid of homelessness. That should be our focus as a country, based on where we are politically, but it's not.
No.
We have no focus. There isn't a goal. What's the goal of Canada? There isn't one. To me, Trump was actually the greatest moment for Canada to come together and try and grow, and it did it for a little bit, and now it's just fallen apart again.
Yeah. He did. He did us a huge service, and now we're losing focus, I think, in direction of where that should be taking us. What do you think developers need to hear? Even like we've been talking about developers helping and governments helping, but the unions too. Like I think the unions are really stepping up and contributing and wanting to help like support subtrades and labor shortages and things like that. But what do you think these people sort of need to hear and understand right now about delivery, cost, risk?
Well, I think the bigger challenge right now, especially for unions, is the number of employees that won't have any work. Mm-hmm. And the thing with that is focusing on the future, that we've got to keep the programs going with the training and bringing the young people into the industry. And we can't lose focus. We're in a moment in time that's a slowdown, and everyone needs to work together, because I think the unions probably have more ability to pressure the government than anyone else, almost in that they bring votes.
Exactly.
And votes are worth something, and really pressurize the government to helping us get the residential back online again, because that works both for the workers, be them unionized or not unionized. But if we've got work, everyone's making money, everyone can afford a home. Well, not necessarily afford a home, but they can make the payments and stuff like that. Exactly. And the overall goal is to make housing affordable, recognizing it's just this massive mountain to climb. But in the end, that helps everybody.
Yeah.
It's time for Canada to grow the hell up and start looking after the people of the country and doing it better. And the easiest solution to housing is add supply, but the even easier one is, why don't we just get the economy rolling and get everybody's salaries up? Because what people are paid and the increases they've had are absolutely ludicrously low in Canada over the last 10 years. We've basically lost a decade, and the government needs to refocus, because to make housing affordable, you can't just bring house prices down. It wouldn't work like that. You need to get salaries up.
I guess a big part of that and something important in making this happen is like encouraging the next generation, like we've spoken about. And you've been on so many of these like podcasts and done amazing messaging. Like, what would your advice be to the next generation and like wanting to build this industry and stay motivated and positive about being in this industry as future leaders?
Everyone's been told, go do coding, go code, go code, go code. You know what? The trades are an amazing industry. It's got security, as much as we've got a bump now. Generally, it has security of employment, and depending on what you want to do, it can be challenging. And being in the trades doesn't necessarily mean you're stuck on site for your whole life. If that's where you were at, you can start on site, work back into the office. There's so many different roles within the industry. It's crazy. Like, I don't think people realize how many different jobs there is within an industry, and even from trade to trade or wherever you sit, there's so many opportunities, and the opportunities are there because we have gaps. So the right young people are willing to work hard are going to make a lot of money. I remember one of the developers used to always make the joke that, you fast forward 10 years and basically the plumber's going to turn up at the developer's house driving a Bugatti, and because there won't be any. And that was the joke, is that, that doctors make a lot of money right now. But as you go to the future, the less and less we have trades, the more value they'll have. I think it's getting better. And I think the unions and the trade organizations are really big on that in trying to encourage more people. And I think it's a really good sign. Like I went to ISCA, that's the interior guys. They've got a training center up in Vaughan. That's really cool, where they're training all these people and doing drywall and stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I think there's a definite move in the right direction.
Exactly. With proper training, of there'll be more job site ready.
Yeah.
Going back, I've said it before, some of the most successful people I know in this industry, like executives, business owners, they all started in the trades. So
it's very commonplace.
For people to think that it's not a successful career path, I think it's one of the best ones now, seeing it and being in this industry for over 10 years. It's a great place to start. And then you don't come out with $50,000 debt of schooling. If
you're willing to work hard and really put it in, construction pays back. It's one of those weird industries where there is a definite link between working hard and the results you achieve.
And just you're literally building the city you live in. It's a rewarding career.
I'm terrible for driving around front and going, I worked in that, I worked in that, I worked in that, I worked in that. And then my daughter usually says, can you stop telling us? I'm like, okay.
That's okay. I get it. I'm the same boat. Yeah. I'm in the same boat. Okay, so I think that pretty much wraps up everything. I'm going to try a quick rapid fire with you. We'll see how it goes. A couple little questions, just no wrong answers. Just kind of go with your gut. So for building, steel or wood?
Concrete.
Toronto or the 905?
905.
Worst assumption people make about general contractors?
That they're stupid.
One thing you miss about being a consultant?
Nothing.
And most overused buzzword in construction right now?
Bifurcation.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Marlon. It was great sitting with you. You've been a great first guest.
Thank you.